next up, I think, is George talking about sexy Shelob.
Oh yes. Okay. So I think I should start with the trigger warning, because anytime you start talking about women in video games, trigger warning.
That's my safe space.
If I said, "Hey guys, spider and sexy," would that sound right to you? Hell no, it wouldn't.
Smite, and there's an anime with it's called Monsters something. Living with Monsters. So yes.
Well, that gives you some insight into you there.
Well, that's taking everything off topic.
Also, wasn't Mary Jane in Spider-Man like Spider-Girl at some point as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. My point is this, okay? In the most recent Shadow of War, whatever the heck it's called, they took a character from a Lord of the Rings book. The book came out, just to clarify, in 1954, okay? Now, I know this is probably a topic not many people care about, but here's why I think it's kind of offensible. They took this character that was just a giant spider monster, who was very terrifying, very cool if you've seen the movies. She was a really badass character, and they hypersexualized her for this game for absolutely no reason.
And she doesn't look like a spider at all, right?
No. She turns from a spider into this sexy, like, black lady, this typical goth looking lady. Which I'm going to offend goths now. Great. But you get the idea. It's just a hypersexualized character who never in the history of this character is it known that she could do this. It was unnecessary. It just made me roll my eyes because it's so just typical.
Right. So you're gonna piss off the feminists for hypersexualizing a woman. You're gonna piss off Lord of the Rings fans because they're messing with the lore of the character. Is there anyone they're not going to annoy with this particular development?
Perverts like me.
Well, yeah, I suppose perverts like male gamers. Yeah, that's fine.
No, I can understand where actually you're coming from, because you're quite right. If it's just there to bump sales, if it's just there to put a eye candy in, then you're right. It's a sexist sort of attitude towards it. We're trying to get away from that. If it was in the original lore, then you're quite right. There is that's it was always there. That's fine. Just to do it though, to bump up the teenagers buying it. You think it's more of a marketing tool, possibly, to try and get the younger boys into it?
Definitely.
I mean, this just sounds like something out of the 90s. It's like, oh, yeah. And what we'll do is we'll make it so the guy can drive a truck, and the truck has got machine guns on it, and it can turn into a giant T-Rex, and the T-Rex saves all of the babes, and then they have hamburgers and milkshake, and it's brilliant, and everyone kisses with tongues, and it's amazing. Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Strangely enough, everyone's just going, that's quite good.
But like doing that with Lord of the Rings, or like with I don't know, the Canterbury Tales, or Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
No, to be honest with you, Romeo and Juliet, the adaptation of that was pretty good. But yeah, whatever.
And in the same vein, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is really good. If anyone's not seen it.
But it doesn't go like, oh, and now Mr. Darcy also happens to be a hot babe as well, and now they're all totally Frenching. It's not like that, like 12-year-old boy from the 80s or 90s stereotype of what they want in the world. And yeah, so I can see why people would be annoyed at this, to be honest with you. And that is a bit weird that they've just taken this literal big bad spider and turned it into a sexualized woman. It's like, yeah, you wouldn't.
Here's a question for you: would it be offensive if they turned that big bad spider and turned into a sexualized man?
Yes.
Yes,
would it be
because, and I'll go through this, because the thing. I mean, I give less than anything about Lord of the Rings. I can't stand it. But my main major issue with it is the fact they mess with the lore of Lord of the Rings more than the fact. I mean, sexualizing a woman and putting her in a game, that's almost to be expected. Is it a good thing? Not really, but it's not new. But messing with established lore is not good to do either. And that's
it's the reasoning behind it. Yeah. Have they actually stated what the reason behind it was? Have they actually, the developers come out and said, this is the reason why?
Of course not. They're just like, oh, they wanted to make her a character and make her seem like a mother figure to the main character.
So they really couldn't come up with because she could have been like a terrifying old woman.
Nope. She needs to be hot spider.
I can just imagine they go, so, Mr. Developer, why did you turn this spider monster into an over-sexualized woman? And they just reply with the word boobs.
Yeah,
that's just reason enough.
or maybe sales,
I'm thinking sales. It's a sales pitch. Yeah, we need to increase our sales in this demographic, 8 to 14, because that's where the money is. And how do we do that? And you can see some guy in the background going, hot spider woman? Anyone? That works. That works.
There's lots of tits in Game of Thrones. Similar kind of eras and kind of things. Let's go that direction.
Literally, they could have, and to not to prove a point or to hammer a point home, but literally turning a friggin' giant spider into a random woman that's meant to be attractive or is attractive or whatever. They, where do they stop? They could have done that with one of the random towers. They could have been like, hey, look, Sauron's in this. And by the way, it's Sauronetta, or whatever. And they could have been like, hey, look, the Ents are here. But it's literally a bunch of all-female Ents and their babes. So it's like the Amazonian Ents. There's no respect for the source material here.
Trust me, there's someone on the PC who's going to mod that. Now you've mentioned it, I can guarantee you some PC guy is going to mod it like that.
But it's just like, really, the question shouldn't be why or is it offensive. It should be more of what was the bloody point? It's like,
especially when you're altering lore that is over 70 years old. That's just
exactly
ridiculous.
If you're altering lore at any point, you have to have a concrete, solid foundation for doing it.
Guys, Otherwise, I've had a brilliant idea. I think we should do like a 4-player cooperative shooter where you play as 4 random presidents of America, and rather than George Washington, we can have like a Babe Washington, and we can have like Abraham Lincoln, and we can we can have some of the other important ones as well. Yeah, and we can just have them all as babes, and that'll sell loads. Yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, brilliant.
I think that's my idea. There is a game out there like that.
Well, I mean, my Saints Row 4 game, I play the president in that, and my president's a woman with massive tits. So
the question is, what would be? And it's a shame, really, we haven't got. We've got a large group of guys here talking about this. It'd be nice to get a woman's perspective in terms of is she finding it offensive? Is she finding it offensive, or is it guys, typical sort of attitude? Because I'd like to see what their views on it as well.
Very true. This has just been all chaps thus far. So,
which don't get me wrong, there's various viewpoints on it, but I think generally, what we're coming down is it's you've messed with the law. How dare you? Not the case of you've put in such a really hot babe. I think it's more of come down to it. It's like, why have you even bothered? We can see what you're doing. Don't try and pull the wool over our eyes. You're messing with the law to bump sales. At least if you're going to do it, I mean, would it have been better if they just come up and said that? We've messed with the law to boost sales. Would it have been more of an issue if they just come out and said that?
Then I think that it would have gone. The law people would have said, "Well, yeah, here's a bit of a problem." But if they came out and said, "Well, it's just to boost the sales," then the SJWs and feminists and all that kind of people, that's when it would really piss them off.
Yeah, there is a point where we can't just sling around the word, the acronym for social justice warrior. You can't just sling stuff around like that, because it is plain and simple that, this is like not just an odd move on the whole sexualization front, but, etc. I don't want to get too tied up in this, but that is a pretty dumb move. They could have brought if they wanted a random babe to be in the game, they could have just made a random new babe, or they could have got a female character and been like, oh no, all of my clothes has fallen off, or whatever that they would have done in, back when we were all growing up, So yeah, I don't know.
So to wrap up, which is what I kind of want to do here, is I want to ask you guys questions. Whoever's listening, can you think of a strong female character who's not sexy? That would be my challenge to you guys, and I think that should be the end of that subject. But that's kind of like what I wanted.
Without doubt, that's not a problem for me. 100%. My favorite feminine character who is not sexy is Ripley. She just embodied a perfect female heroine.
The movie?
Yeah, in Alien, Ripley, perfect.
In Isolation. She's in that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's not there to be sexualized. She's there to do the job and get through it, and she's doing it to the best of her ability. She's not sexualized. She's not overt. They whacked her in, and she's like, what, 1979, 1980, that film came out? This has been, strong women have been around for a while. So to come and do this sort of thing now,
I think the important thing is that really, when it comes to a narrative, if there's anything that's not got anything to do with the damn narrative, then it's not important. And so very much the Ripley character I heard was originally pitched as a male, or somebody wanted it to be a male character. And the important thing is that character did nothing like, oh yeah, but don't forget I'm a girl, so I'm going to do my hair, And it also didn't do anything like, hey, I'm a guy, I'm going to drink some beer and throw a American football at a wall, And similarly, I found that the Max character in Life is Strange was pretty good. I mean, I know that was very kind of like seen and targeted at young kids, and I didn't understand half of the lingo, and it seemed pretty ridiculous at times. But at least that was actually going on the human angle of things, rather than going, hey, I'm a girl and this happens, etc., 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 etc. Should definitely be a character first, in the same way that we should be humans first before we're identified by our gender, or etc., etc., etc.
All right. Well, if it's all right with Terry, I'm just going to move on to the next subject here, which is about the same game anyways.